In order to verify, validate, and answer your questions beforehand about the program I'm going to go over in the personalized 401k alternative video, I'll start with the United States Federal Court of Appeals Judge Learned Hand when he was quoted as saying, "In America there are two tax systems, one for the informed, and they pay lower taxes, and one for the underinformed, and they pay higher taxes. Qualified plans like 401ks, traditional IRAs, and 403bs are for the underinformed. Now it's time to become informed about the 401k alternative. To save for retirement, you basically have two choices. You can use a qualified plan like a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, or 401k type program. Or you can use a non-qualified plan like a savings account, a CD, a money market account, life insurance, or some other kind of personal pension plan. It's true some people still do have a corporate pension plan, but corporations are eliminating them as quickly as possible. After the market crash of 2007 and 2008, CBS 60 Minutes and Time magazine dug deep into the problems and the inherent risks that the qualified plans have. They came up with 4 primary risks: market losses, high management fees, future tax rate increases, and the longevity risk, outliving your savings. During their investigations, they fortunately discovered that there was an alternative to the 401k that had none of the 4 primary risks associated with 401ks. Before we get started, let me ask you, how many more market crashes will you see in your lifetime? As you can see, from the early 1900s to today, the market consistently goes up and down and has experienced many devastating market crashes. The average loss is over 47%, and those crashes take place about every 11 years. What you may not know is that the 401k only came into being in the mid-1980s. As you can see, from 1984 all the way up to the year 2000, you didn't have to be a smart investor to win on Wall Street. You simply had to have money in the market. Everybody thought they were going to retire with plenty of money back then, but then came the devastating crash of 2000, and then again in 2007. So the question is, not will the market crash again, but when? And will you have enough years before you retire to recover from your losses? The second primary risk that they uncovered was high management fees. The sad fact is, the majority of people have absolutely no clue to how much money they're paying in fees for their 401k. Do you have any idea how much you pay in fees? So let's talk about 401k fees. Did you know that you are paying 2 sets of separate fees to own a 401k? That's right. According to the 401k average book, people are paying between 0.87% and 1.88% just to own a 401k. If you're employed by a really big company, you'll pay less. But if you're like most people, you could easily be paying 1% to 2% or more. And according to Forbes magazine, the average mutual fund fees can run anywhere from 3% to as high as 5%. So it is very possible to be paying a total of a minimum of 2% to as much as 5%. What you see pictured here is the cover of the Department of Labor's booklet on 401 plan fees that I will include, if requested, in my email to you after this webinar. The next item they reviewed was future tax rate increases. Most people I talk to tell me they believe the taxes will go up and up and up between now and the time that they pass away. Do you agree? Which way will taxes go? Today, there are no longer 42 people contributing to Social Security for every one person who takes money out of the program. The ratio has fallen to 3 to 1.1, and in another 7 years, it's going to be closer to 2 to 1. As of 2012, the Social Security program costs the government over $700 billion per year, or about 20% of the federal budget. Medicare suffers from the same demographic challenges as Social Security. As of 2012, it costs the government over $500 billion per year. The fiscal strain of these two programs alone could bankrupt the United States of America. The United States currently spends roughly 76 cents of every tax dollar it brings in on 4 items: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on the national debt. Absent any action on the part of Congress, however, the percentage of the government revenue required to pay for these 4 big-ticket items could balloon to 92 cents of every tax dollar by the year 2020. Now, according to the Congressional Budget Office, if Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid go unchanged, the rate for the lowest tax bracket would increase from 10% to 25%. The current 25% bracket would rise to 63%, and the highest bracket would go from 35% to 88%. Let me take you back in time. From 1960 to 1963, the lowest marginal tax rate was 20%. The middle bracket was 69%, and the highest marginal tax rate was an astounding 91%. This is a path we've been down before in this country. Here's a simple explanation of how increasing taxes will affect the amount of money that you'll have left to retire on. Imagine this bill at the top was your 401k retirement money. The red portion is the tax-deferred portion that belongs to the United States government. The large part on the left is the money that you have saved for your retirement. If taxes went up, as you can see below, the government ended up taking more of the money that you had saved to retire on just by raising taxes. That's the danger of the tax time bomb that you will experience just when you need the money the most. So, how will the government make up for the shortage? Well, the government has limited options. They're either going to raise taxes, change tax brackets, or eliminate tax deductions, or possibly do all three in order to grab as much of your qualified retirement plan as possible. The next risk that they explored is the fear of most seniors. Will I outlive my retirement income? As a matter of fact, AARP did a survey and 61% said they feared running out of money more than they feared dying. Now let's talk about the 401k alternative. The editor of Time magazine was being interviewed on MSNBC Morning Joe, and he was exposing all of the problems associated with 401ks and qualified plans. They finally asked him, if we shouldn't be putting our money into a 401k, where should we put it? His response, was to put your money into an insurance plan that guarantees a pension. This plan not only guarantees your lifetime pension, but it can provide you with a tax-free income that will last until the day that you die and guarantee that you will never lose another penny when the market crashes again. After people start becoming educated on this 401k alternative, they figure they should have to run it by their CPA. The problem is that most CPAs know nothing about this program. But as you can see here, according to the Federal Reserve, in a Wall Street Journal article from October of 2010, 22% of all the money invested in this plan is owned by the wealthiest 1%. Remember, those 1%ers are billionaires, and that 55% of all the assets in this program are owned by the wealthiest 10%, and those are millionaires and multimillionaires, and they know something your CPA doesn't know. So, why do I mention this? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you seriously think that a billionaire or millionaire ever invested any money into any program before talking to the smartest, brightest, highest paid advisors that money can buy before putting any money into this program? Well, of course not. So if you were to go to your CPA and your CPA said, no, I don't think I would do this, it's simply because they have no idea what this program is. They're not going to tell you they have no idea what it is because they don't want to look uninformed. They'll just say, I don't think you should do this. So, why is this program so great? Because you're getting a tax-free retirement savings and a tax-free death benefit for your family if you were to pass away prematurely. It is all rolled into one simple plan. Unlike your 401k, you can take a tax-free income at any time without having a mandatory retirement. And you can take income now while you're working to pay for your child's education, pay off a car loan, or you can take income from it when you retire. And you get all of this for the same amount of money you would be putting into your 401k or other qualified plan without all of these benefits. Remember when I told you that the 401k came into being in the mid-1980s? Well, in the mid-1980s, Congress also passed 3 congressional acts called TEFRA, which is the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982, DEFRA, the Deficit Reduction Act of 1984, and TAMRA, Technical and Miscellaneous Revenue Act of 1988. These 3 congressional acts are the bones upon which this tax-free program was constructed. It's also tax-free under Internal Revenue Codes 7702 and 7702A. So why haven't you heard of it before? Because between 1984 and the year 2000, the market was going up year after year, and anybody that was in the market was making a lot of money, and they simply had no interest in exploring anything else. Everyone forgot about the fact that the market would eventually crash. Now it's time to take a look at some of the superior attributes that this tax-free program provides. So let me quickly explain how and why this program will never lose any money from a market crash. If the market goes up 10, 20, 30, or even 40%, this program has a cap that will only allow you to capture up to about 13 to 15% of the market. Most people will say that I want to capture all of the gains, but by having the ability to capture all of these gains, the qualified plan exposes your savings account to 100% of all market losses. By limiting the upside gain, you are guaranteed a 0 loss when the market crashes. But you will match whatever the market does between the floor of 0% and whatever the upside cap is. This slide will help you understand the way that Wall Street can legally confuse the average investor by simply using the average return. The average return is mathematically correct, but it's a total misrepresentation of the truth. Let me explain this by helping you understand the difference between average and actual. If you started out in your number 1 with $100,000 and that $100,000 went up 100%, you would then have $200,000. At the beginning of year 2, you would have $200,000, and if the market suffered a 50% loss, you would then have $100,000, the same $100,000 you started with, or absolutely no gain whatsoever, right? Now, let's look at Wall Street's average. The market went up 100% in year 1, lost 50% in year 2. If you subtract the 50% loss from the 100% gain, there would appear to be a net positive of plus 50%. Since this was for a 2-year period, you would divide the 50% net positive gain by 2, and the mathematical advantage or average would appear to be a gain of 25%. Well, as you can see, that simply just isn't true. There was no gain. The actual return, which is called the compound annual growth rate, is actually 0. And that is how Wall Street can legally confuse the average investor. This graph represents the actual compound annual growth rate. Over the past 15 years, even with the dramatic increase that Wall Street made in some of the years, the losses of 2000 and 2007 produced an overall compound annual growth rate of just under 3%. A tax-free plan had a compound annual growth rate of 6.9%. Both of these examples do not include any fees or dividends. This is just a graphical representation to help you see a huge disparity that is created when you do not suffer any market losses. Now let's talk about the benefits of the tax-free plan. Already discussed, there are no market losses, but in addition to that, the tax-free plan has 30 to 50% lower management fees, provides tax-free income until the day that you die, and flexible contributions. In this example, the tax-free plan is 53% less in fees over the person's lifetime. We verified this mathematically. It also provides tax-free income. And again, we prove this mathematically. Lifetime income. Again, we verify and validate it mathematically. In this example, a person runs out of money at age 76. And finally, flexible contributions. Remember, when you put your money into this retirement vehicle, the largest portion is your tax-free savings, and the very smallest portion covers the tax-free death benefit that will go to your heirs when you eventually pass away. So the majority of your money will be yours to use for retirement in the future. The next 2 or 3 slides will be a little confusing, but the last slide will clear everything up. Let's say you retire and start taking money out of your cash value or your savings. The cash value actually continues to grow with the upward movement of the market. Even if you're taking out money, your cash value does not decrease. I know you're asking yourself right now, how in the world is that possible? Well, look at the cash value as your savings for retirement. That savings is actually going to be used as collateral against the money that you borrow to live off of in retirement. And that cash value continues to grow even when you take your retirement income. This is the slide that will easily clear up your questions. So, how is it that when you borrow money from your cash value, it still has the potential to grow? Well, imagine that this house is your cash value, and right now your house or your cash value is worth $200,000, and it has no mortgage or loans against the house or the cash value, and that the home value goes up 10%. It's now worth $220,000. And right across the street is another home that is worth $200,000, but that person borrowed $100,000 against the value of their home. Remember, the house is acting as collateral. If that home or cash value went up 10%, it would be worth $220,000, just like the home across the street that never borrowed any money against their house. That is exactly how your cash value can grow even when you're borrowing money in retirement. Now that you've seen an explanation based on something you are very familiar with, like your home, it's easy to understand how this tax-free program can allow you to take out retirement income and still have your cash value continue to grow and provide you with more money in your retirement. The other big benefit is that the money taken out doesn't have to be paid back until the day that you pass away. As you can see in this example, the cash value has grown quite large, and when you pass away, the insurance company subtracts the retirement income that was borrowed along the way and the interest that accrued, and the balance is passed on to your heirs tax-free. Now we're going to compare the guarantees that you get with your 401k plan versus the guarantees that you get with the tax-free plan. The first guarantee of the qualified plan is that you're guaranteed that 100% of your money in your 401k is at risk of loss when the market crashes. The tax-free plan guarantees that if the market crashes, you will not lose a single penny from the market crash. You're also guaranteed that when you take your money out of your qualified plan, you're guaranteed that you're going to pay taxes on every penny you take at whatever the future tax rate is. The tax-free plan, on the other hand, guarantees that your income will be tax-free. The next guarantee is that not one penny of any of the money of your qualified plan is ever locked in, and it's always subject to market loss. The tax-free plan guarantees that your earnings are locked in on an annual basis. And finally, if you have anything left in your 401k plan upon your death, the money goes to your heirs. That goes to your heirs is guaranteed to be taxable when they take the money out of the inheritance. With the tax-free plan, the money that goes to your heirs is guaranteed to be tax-free. So, if you have any questions that I have not answered and would like to have your own comparison showing the differences between what you are currently doing with your 401k plan and how the tax-free plan would look, let me know during the Q&A session.